Okay, so I got a new tool today. It is a sandblaster from Harbor Freight. It's the, what is it, 100 pound or 120 pounds, or I forget, 110 pound abrasive blaster. And I'm going to use it to try to get some of the rust off of the bus. Originally I was going to try to wire wheel it and do all that, and then the more I looked under here, the more I said, I think it's time for a sandblaster. I've been wanting one for a long time, so I'm gonna give it a shot today and see if I was right about this. Okay, so I need to really start learning to listen to my instincts more. Basically, that sand that I put in the sandblaster, it's just all-purpose sand. I was like, that sand's probably gonna have chunks in it, and it's not, and it's gonna clog immediately. But I was like, maybe not. It's got a pretty big nozzle. No, it clogged immediately. So what I'm doing now is trying to rig up some kind of filter. So I had some window screen laying around. I don't know if it's going to be fine enough, but it'll get some big chunks out. And then I had an old lid. I just cut a hole in the middle of that. And I'm going to snap this lid down over the screen, and hopefully that will hold the screen in place. Actually, I think what I'll do is tuck it down a little way so that it has a little kind of like a funnel action there, and snap this down over top of it. And then it should be able to hold, oh yeah, plenty of weight. And I can just kind of shake it around and it'll go down into the bucket. So that's the maybe easy part. The hard part's going to be getting it back out of there. I'm going to try to just turn the pressure down and try to blow it out. Take the nozzle off and just blow it out. See how that works out. Dog sitting today. While Jeff and Lee are at the coast pound. So Ruby and I are taking a walk. She's leaving me though. See ya. What are you doing? All right, y'all. I got the sandblaster ready to go with a woefully underpowered air compressor. Should be interesting. And I got all the foam off. So you can see that's all my new welded metal under there. And all the little patchwork that I did. And that's where the old foam was. That's where there's nothing really wrong with this. You can kind of see old primer or paint or whatever they did there. But anyway, we're gonna try to sandblast this. That's where I did a little bit the other day. Works pretty good. But we're gonna give it a try with the air compressor I've got and see how painful it is. I think it's gonna do okay. We'll see. Dang it again. Yeah, I figured I'd pull the generator out today. So got the center section of the bumper removed and pull the cover over here off. Just got it leaned up and there she blows. Now I just got to disconnect that exhaust back there, right there. It's already missing one bolt, so got a head start. And yeah, who knows what else. I don't know. Take this bolt out, take that bolt out, and it should slide. So let's see if we get. So I'm looking under here. We had a heck of a rainstorm last night, and I'm looking and I don't see any water. So I'm thinking what I did on the rivets out there must have been the leak. So basically, but well, however, we still have a leak on this side. There's a leak right there. And then there's a few more right there. And that was honestly, this side is the side I figured was not going to have a leak this time, but the tables have turned. But here's what's going on, I think. This strip right here, which normally has a rubber insert in it, I call it a rub rail because it looks like a rub rail on a boat. But originally I was checking all these rivets to see if they were loose, and it was leaking through there, which it was in some spots, and some were actually broken off and missing. For example, this one, which I fixed and figured that was going to be the last thing, and it was going to fix the leaks. This is directly above one of those puddles in there. This was leaking. I fixed that. Then I figured this rivet was leaking. I fixed that. Still got a puddle. But here's what happens is, not only are the rivets holding this on, but there's two pieces of metal that come together behind here, and there's rivets holding those together. And what's happening is those rivets are corroding and popping off back behind here, and you can see there's nothing to stop water from running behind there. So if you've got a rivet missing, it's just going to run right in. Not only is it going to run in, but this acts as just a funnel. I mean, the water sheets down the side of the bus and lands on top of this rub rail, and it just piles up. So you take, you know, a small leak and make it into an even bigger leak. But if you look, if I can get it, look really close, you can kind of see there's a rivet back behind there. And yeah, I mean, this thing catches water, and when it rains, and holds it up against those rivets, and those rivets just corrode and eventually pop off, and then your skin starts leaking into the bus. So what I did on the other side is I just pulled it off, and I put tape over all the holes, basically to test my theory that this was what was leaking. And it was. This side is not wet. So my theory is that whatever, you know, whatever I did to fix that, well, that's obviously not going to be the final fix, but that if it was like that on that side, it's going to be like it on this side. So gonna drill all these rivets out, take this rub rail off. All right, so this is what it looks like. I haven't knocked these rivets back out yet, but here's what I'm talking about. So if I push on this, see how loose that rivet is? I mean, that rivet is spinning in the hole. So that one's gonna leak. This one's pretty loose, it's probably leaking. This one's going in the frame, so it's pretty steady. Coming down, there's one broke off. That's not the one I drilled out. These are the ones I drilled out. Here and here, broke off. That one's gonna leak. Missing, that one's gonna leak. Loose, kind of on top of the other one, that one's gonna leak. And this is the one that was above the puddle. Gone, definitely leaking. This one's probably leaking. See how it's pushed out from the corrosion. This one's broke off. So there's some there that I don't know what happened here. The skin sheared these off. So gets a little better as you go down here. Not too bad. But anyway, that's probably the source of the leaks, because I've got a puddle here, and there's another puddle about right here. It's where the other big puddle is, right behind it. Back here is the doghouse for the engine bay. So, you know, you can't really tell if it's leaking. I guess you could kind of like look in there and see if it's leaking, but anyway, I'm going to start knocking these other rivets out and look at redoing this. So what I found is I could take my little mini Wonder Bar, hit it with a hammer, and just chop these rivets right off. It's a good sharp little mini Wonder Bar. This thing's great. However, I don't want to do that to my little mini Wonder Bar. So I'm going to go out to the shop, find a chisel, and sharpen it up real sharp on the grinder. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use that to just chop all these, because they're all spinning. And you can't really drill them out when they're spinning like that. Well, you can, but it's a pain in the butt. So I'm just going to chop them off, and I'm going to drive them through, and I'm just going to replace all of the rivets. So I've got all of the rivets that are doing just the skin here chopped off. I did end up using my mini Wonder Bar because it was just working so good. And I left these sticking out so that I could keep up with which one's which one's for the rub rail and which ones are for these. So I'm gonna go, what I'm doing now is just taking a punch and knocking the rivets through so I can put a new one in. And just gonna go knock them all out. And then I'm gonna put new rivets in here. And then I'll come down here and I'll knock all these out after I'm done. All right, so I stopped right here because I'm becoming a little concerned that as I'm driving these out, the skin is shifting a little bit. The last two were kind of questionable there. And now that could just be because I just passed this seam and this one is not so great as this one. But just to be safe, I'm going to start to put some rivets back in before I get too carried away here. All right, so I've got all the holes drilled out, and I'm taking this little guy with a roll-out disc on it, and I'm just using it to sort of clean up around the hole a little bit and deburr it from. Just to give myself a little bit better sealing surface. Not that it's going to make that much difference, but you know, just something quick to clean it up a little bit. And then I'm going to come back through here and start riveting. Okay, got sealing in the holes, got most of the rivets in. Where there's a frame here, I'm going to use Olympic rivets. Okay, got sealing in the holes, got most of the rivets in. Where there's a frame here, I'm going to use Olympic rivets. Mostly because they're longer and I need that extra length to be able to reach in behind this piece of steel that goes through here. And these are a little short. I feel like they would probably grip, but the problem with that is if they don't grip, then you have to drill it out again, and it's just a big mess. So I've got plenty of these. So even though it's not something that needs a pretty shavable rivet, I'm going to use them anyway. And then all around this thing, they put some backing in here. And so, I may have to drill through some more stuff. See if I can get this one. Now that one goes in. So I think what I might do on this one is, since these are not as deep, I can probably, nope, it's still gonna hit. Now, let's see what the heck is going on there. Did I grab enough? There's a frame. There's a frame, and I got sealing all over the side of the bus. And there's a frame. Wow. grab the right amount. The reason I'm using black Sikaflex is that it was already in the syringe, and this is all getting covered up. But paint thinner takes care of that. Sikaflex pretty good. Okay, I think we're ready to start pulling these rivets. A little pressure. That's super convenient. Well, I was hoping that would fall through. Hard to do this stuff with one hand. I could probably push it through with the next one. Am I gonna regret that? Ah. May have figured something out here. Push it in. Use that one to push it through. Oh yeah. So it's got a little, they're supposed to just fall through. There's probably some way to do that that's better and faster than what I'm doing. Now if you look at this Olympic rivet, it's got knurls on it. These things don't like that so much. And the other thing I'm noticing is these Olympic rivets tend to not break off in the right spot when I use this. Okay, see, that one did. So see, that's what an Olympic rivet does. It breaks off out here, and then you take some nippers and you cut this, and then use a shaving tool to shave it, and it makes it look like that. Haven't tried that yet, actually. I've just been leaving them like this for right now. Well, that one went pretty well too. Cool. You know what's cool about this is, one thing that's cool about doing these is that I can practice shaving them because you can't see them. So if I miss, or if the shaving tool comes flying off and I scratch, it doesn't matter. So that's gonna be good. So anyway, y'all don't need to see this. We've got quite a few to go. But one other thing. So I talked about the Olympic rivet. This is the other one. This is what's called a closed end rivet. So you can see there's no hole in the end of it where the, I forget what that's called, where this goes through. And what that does is, if you've got a nice clean hole, which these, I drilled them out, but I don't trust them, so I'm using sealant anyway. But if you had a nice new fresh hole, theoretically, when this thing pulls up tight against that aluminum, it's sealed, and you don't really have to do anything else to waterproof it. And I think they probably did that on some of these rivets. I'm trying to find an example. Like these, I doubt are closed in. I think this was just a repair. It's the engine bay. But over on the other side, there's some of these, I think. But anyway, that's what that rivet is. That's what we're using everywhere except for on the frame. Well, as often is the case, I've run out of daylight, but I have lights. So I've got skin rivets are done, and I've got these drilled out. I've got the rub rail prepared and drilled out and cleaned on the inside, and I deburred the holes. And now I am going to wipe it down one more time, and I'm going to put on all these little pieces of butyl tape over the holes. All right, so I think I'm done. Got all the rivets in. Can't find any holes or anything missing. And it looks like the sealant is kind of squeezed out a little bit, but not too much, which is good. So hopefully my choice to go with butyl tape will not backfire, but it shouldn't. It should be okay. And the beauty of the butyl tape is, if for some reason it doesn't work out and it leaks, it'd be a whole lot easier to take this back off and redo it. But it's squeezing out. I just hope that the more it squeezes out doesn't mean that now my rivets are going to get looser and looser. That might be not good. But whatever, we'll see how it goes. It certainly can't be more leaky than it was. So ever since I started messing with the rivets on this bus, I've been wondering what kind of rivets these are right here. I'm like, they're not buck rivets, because if I look at the back, there's no mushroom where they've driven, you know, where they hammered it in. And they're not shaved rivets. You know, I couldn't figure out what they were. What they are is a pop rivet. There's one that I just took out from this hole right here. It's a pop rivet with a little cap that goes on it. And just that thing sticks in the little hole there, and it's got some sealant that holds it in. And from the best I can tell, that's what they used on these doors. I don't know if that was original like that or what, but be curious to know if other people have these classics, if theirs are like this. But anyway, they're kind of doing what the rest of them are doing. The aluminum's corroding and they're breaking off one by one. They just need to be replaced. But I think I'm going to put buck rivets back in it, because you can get to the back. I'm at least going to try to hammer them in there and try my hand at that. But I thought that was really interesting. They're little rivet caps. All right, y'all. On the driver's side today, doing what I call the rub rail on this side. Putty got a little out of hand there. It's this guy laying on the ground here. So I've got all of these rivets that are holding the skin together on done. And now I've got butyl tape covering up all the other rivet holes, and then we'll just stick this bad boy up here and rivet it. I think the sun's gonna help us, because this stuff's nice and warm and it'll squeeze out good. Hopefully it'll help and not hurt us. I'm using these Olympic rivets on everywhere there is a frame, because there's a steel back there. Well, there's steel and then there's the frame. There's just a lot of stuff to go through, and these have a little bit wider grip range than the others. So everywhere there's rivets, I'm gonna put one of these, and that'll get me started. And then I'll just come back with my closed-in rivets and rivet the rest of them. And hopefully that will be the end of the leaks on this side, at least in the rear of the bus. So let me get this thing on and we'll see what it looks like. All right, after fighting with it, almost every single one of these, I've got the rivets ready to go. I got most of these driven already, but being kind of a pain, I'm dealing with what happens is it's the afternoon, sun's on here, and when the sun's shining on the side of the bus, they line up pretty good, because that's how it was when I drilled them out to 5/32. But when it goes behind a cloud like that, they all get out of line. So if you can do this kind of thing indoors, I would highly suggest that. at the moment, almost all these are leaning at an angle. You can kind of, I don't know if you can tell in the video, but I don't know, maybe it'll be all right. I'm gonna tighten them up, see what happens.